Welcome to Trade Finder, a series where I take a look at the NBA standings and see what went wrong for a team that isn't doing so well as projected. This idea kind of spiraled out in our AO podcast Skype chat, and I decided to do my own remixed version of the series. So today, we're going to be looking at the bottom of the Western Conference, and a team that's surprisingly there is the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, there's a few reasons why the Pelicans are at the bottom of the food chain in the West. That's because they got a new coach in Alvin Gentry, learning in the system, getting familiar with the players, but the main reason that we all know is because the injuries that happened early in the season to Tyreek Evans, Drew Holiday, Norris Cole, they had literally all their guards injured. Now luckily for the Pelicans, it seems like a lot of their players are getting back to being healthy, but it still seems like the New Orleans Pelicans are a long way away from reaching that 8th or 7th spot in the Western Conference. So how can they do better, not only for this year, but in next year's free agency? The Pelicans have openly discussed that they're looking to move Omer Asik off the team, along with entertaining the idea of trading away Ryan Anderson as well, due to the fact of how well he's playing and being an expiring contract. So I came up with a few trades using ESPN's Trade Finder, and here are a few deals that I came up with to better the New Orleans Pelicans. Not only am I looking at this season, but I'm also looking at the future of this team by looking at the cap and the salary of the players that they're getting in return, along with the players they are losing. So we're going to start off with the most unreasonable, unrealistic trades first, and then moving in at the end to the most realistic trade in my opinion. The first trade up is between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Washington Wizards. The Washington Wizards give the Pelicans Nene, Otto Porter, and Blair, while the Pelicans lose and give to the Wizards Omer Asik and Ryan Anderson. Omer Asik is going to be in all three of the trades I do today, because that's the prime player the Pelicans really want to move to improve their roster for this year and along with wiggle room for free agency. For this trade, the Pelicans get a young small forward in Otto Porter Jr. who will be a nice starting piece next to Anthony Davis because they really need that starting small forward in their lineup, along with getting an expiring contract in Nene and bench depth for the big man position after losing Omer Asik and Ryan Anderson. While this sets up the Wizards, on the other hand, to have a better chance of getting Kevin Durant in the offseason by acquiring Ryan Anderson. They do not have to re-sign him. He's a lesser expiring contract than Nene, and also get a backup for Marcin Gortat and Omer Asik. Now, the biggest problem with Omer Asik is his 5-year contract. Let's say the Wizards do trade for Asik, they're going to have to do something about him in free agency if they're really wanting to push to sign Kevin Durant or give Bradley Beal max money. This trade isn't really necessarily beneficial for both teams for now, but it is for the future. The Wizards side of things, they might have a chance of getting Kevin Durant, and for the Pelicans side of things, they get a promising young small forward in Otto Porter Jr. But if the Pelicans don't decide to trade to the Wizards, they can easily trade to the Orlando Magic. With this trade, the New Orleans Pelicans receive Tobias Harris and Channing Frye, while the Orlando Magic receive Omer Asik, Ryan Anderson, and Quincy Pondexter. And I know what you're thinking, why in the world would the Orlando Magic give up Tobias Harris after just re-signing him for how much they did? Right now, the Orlando Magic are the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. The Bucks did a very similar move last season, trading Brandon Knight to get Michael Carter-Williams at trade deadline when they were doing so well with Brandon Knight already starting for them, just because they did not want to pay him. Although the Orlando Magic situation is a little bit different considering Tobias isn't an expiring contract, by doing this trade they get an expiring contract in Ryan Anderson. But most importantly, it gives their already young guys more chance to prove themselves, considering in a year or two they'll be looking to have a contract extension. With Tobias off the team, it gives Aaron Gordon more minutes, Evan Fournier more minutes, Victor Oladipo more minutes, and Mario Hezonja more minutes as well, along with Elfrid Payton being the focal point at the starting point guard position. Overall, this trade is very beneficial for the future of the Orlando Magic, and it's really betting on the young players, betting on Aaron Gordon, Hezonja, Victor Oladipo, and Payton to really step up their game. Although it may not necessarily benefit them now, in a year or two, they'll definitely be a threat in the Eastern Conference. While the Pelicans, on the other hand, on paper, should really benefit now from this trade by getting Tobias Harris, a starting small forward, to pair up with Anthony Davis, along with Channing Frye coming off the bench. Also, a little fun fact, Tobias Harris and Ryan Anderson are averaging around the same points per game this year. So it really helps the Magic with scoring, and it also helps the Pelicans with an athletic small forward that they desperately need. Lastly, if the Pelicans and Orlando Magic can't work out a deal, here is the last and final trade that I have proposed for the New Orleans Pelicans and the Denver Nuggets. By far the most realistic out of the bunch, the Denver Nuggets received from the Pelicans Omer Asik, Luke Babbitt, and Ish Smith, while the Pelicans received J.J. Hickson, Joffrey Laverne, and Gary Harris. This really helps the Pelicans on being better now and in the future by getting a more productive center in J.J. Hickson, who's an expiring contract, while they also keep Ryan Anderson, who's also an expiring contract, and getting young talent for the future in Gary Harris, who, just in case Eric Gordon leaves, they have a good backup plan right there, and Joffrey Laverne, who's a stretch forward to help Ryan Anderson. This trade benefits the Pelicans now and in the future, and that's why this is by far the most realistic trade. As for the Denver Nuggets side of things, they get a starting center to take a little bit of minutes from Nurkic, a nice backup shooter for Danilo Gallinari, considering Wilson Chandler is out for the season, and a backup point guard for Ish Smith, who's also on a one-year contract. This trade by far is the most fair for both teams, and I really do hope the Pelicans do something like this in real life. It's not really a game changer trade deadline trade. It's just more of a reevaluating the roster and retooling your squad to be better for now and in the future. Because let's be honest, the Denver Nuggets, they don't look like they're going to be making that 8th seed along with the Pelicans this year by the way they're playing, unless they really step it up. But here's hoping they're both able to turn it around. With that said, the first episode of Trade Finder is coming to an end. Be sure to leave in the comment section below whether or not if you like these trades, dislike these trades, and leave your own personal trades for the New Orleans Pelicans in the comment section below, along with giving me suggestions for what team I should do next in Trade Finder. So I really hope you guys enjoyed the first episode. I'll talk to you guys soon.